Da 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 da. Do you feel like it's the 80s? Do you feel retro already? Well, regardless of that, I'm having fun. This is my review of the May 2025 Saturday night's main event. Welcome to Silo Voice Wrestling on YouTube and the Silo Voice Wrestling podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jason C. McLean. I'm recording this May the 28th, Wednesday. It's just before 2:30 p.m. Eastern, so I have seen the following Raw, and I'm going to do an assorted thoughts on Raw. That's coming up. I'm going to record that after this video. I've also seen the preceding Smackdown, the Go Home Smackdown. Now, I don't really have the time to do an assorted thoughts on that Smackdown, but I will give you one assorted thought right now. I was definitely into the main event, the WWE Tag Team Championship match with the champions, the Street Profits, defending against challengers Fraxium. It was a really good match. I didn't think they were going to change the titles, but I thought, who knows, maybe they will. It was really exciting to the point where I was annoyed when there was the first interruption, DIY, and I was very happy that interruption didn't ruin the match, didn't end the match with a DQ, because Motor City Machine Guns came down and they got taken out, so I was happy. But even though the match ultimately did end in a DQ and was ruined, we didn't get to see the end of the match, I'm not that annoyed because it meant we got a completely surprising return of the Wyatt Six. Yes, if I had known that was Bray Wyatt's birthday, I might have anticipated them showing up somewhere. And I love the fact that the Wyatt Six is now involved in this really hot tag team scene. I think it's a perfect place to put them. Even though it did end the match, which I was really annoyed when I thought it was going to end the expected way, when it ended it in a completely unexpected way, I was actually very happy. Welcome back, Wyatt Six. Now, let's get on to Saturday night's main event. Show started with a tag team match. Seth freaking Rollins, his new stablemate, Bron Breakker, with Paul Heyman in their corner, versus CM Punk and Sami Zayn. This one started off hot and kept that same level of intensity the full way through. There were a lot of amazing moves. There were near falls finishes. At the end, everyone looked great. Bron Breakker looked dominant. Seth Rollins looked great. I thought he was going to win it a few times. CM Punk is incredibly over with that crowd. I mean, so is Sami Zayn, but CM Punk is still, I think he's even more over now than he was before, which is completely not that believable, but it's real when you see it. And Sami Zayn, I was afraid the whole time that he was going to, maybe turn heel because people had said that on the internet. Shouldn't listen to the internet. No, Sami did a great job, and he almost won. He almost won with there was a great spot where he tried for a Blue Thunder Bomb. Seth turned it into a Falcon Arrow, but then he eventually hit the Blue Thunder Bomb. He got a 2 count. I was like, if he could beat Seth Rollins with a Blue Thunder Bomb, that would be amazing. But no, it got to the point where, he did like the haluva kick, or he did the exploder suplex, was going to go for the haluva kick. But then there was Paul Heyman distracting the ref, and Bronson Reed out of nowhere attacked CM Punk. And then Sami, of course, understandably got distracted trying to help out his teammates, saying, well, what the hell is Bronson Reed doing here? He ends up getting speared by Bron Breakker. 1, 2, 3. And then the crowd, though, was when Bronson Reed was joining up with Seth, the crowd was like they were, holy shit. And they were even cheering to a certain point. I think to stop the cheering, I don't know if this was called on the fly or not, but no, Punk crawls into the ring, grabs Heyman's legs. They hold him down. Bronson Reed gives him just 1 tsunami. And honestly, that was a perfect way to get the crowd clearly booing this new stable. Reed just gave 1 tsunami, not many, with assistance to clearly one of the most beloved baby faces. Great way to end this match. I didn't know if I was going to treat Saturday night's main event the same way I treat PLE's fully, as in with letter grades for the matches. But you know what? At least for this match, it definitely deserves one, because this was definitely a PLE caliber match. A+ across the board. Storytelling, in-ring storytelling, in-ring work, crowd, A+. Surprise ending. I didn't know Bronson Reed was back or cleared. And I definitely didn't think he was going to be part of the Seth faction, considering it was really Seth that he'd been attacking Seth repeatedly and starting that feud is what got him mainstream, main roster consideration after being in the mid card and not really going very far for a while. But you know what? They explained it later on Raw. It makes perfect sense. It was a great surprise. I was, even though of course I was cheering for Sami and CM Punk, wearing a CM Punk t-shirt. Sami's my number one guy. But yeah, I think this was an excellent way to start the show and an excellent match that would feel perfectly at home, even main eventing any PLE. Next up, for the Women's United States Championship, the champion Zelina Vega defends against challenger and former and inaugural champion Chelsea Green with the Secret Hervis. This was a last-minute addition to the card. Obviously, they had to have at least one women's match, and it's always good to get Chelsea Green out there. But it did feel kind of rushed. I mean, started off with a backstage segment with Chelsea Green, being interviewed in character with the Secret Hervis. Kind of that was my favorite part of the match. I hate to say it, but yeah. Okay, so the match starts. It's a very quick match. The Hervis did try to interfere. Chelsea Green looked very strong for a bunch of it, but of course she ate what looked like a botched 619. She got a bloody nose, and ultimately the interference was stopped, and Zelina Vega hit a code red. 1, 2, 3, won what was a very short match. Okay, story. I am into this story. I think they could be doing a little bit better, but B+. In-ring storytelling, a B. In-ring work, I mean, Chelsea did look really good. She's always very entertaining, but and Zelina was okay too. But there was that little botch. I doubt she intended to give Chelsea a bloody nose. So for that, let's say I'll be generous. B-. Crowd, A-. But the thing though is the crowd seems to be more into Chelsea than Zelina. Overall, I'm going to give it a B+. It was a good match. It was entertaining. It was short. It was a last minute thing. You could tell they came up with it last minute. Did I enjoy watching it? Yeah. Did I need to see this match? No. This could have been left off the card. Of course, you got to have at least one women's match, and it's always good to get this story out there. I think they could have done this better instead of just adding it last minute. I also think that maybe they could have done something with Chelsea, or with Zelina actually, where Zelina maybe defends the title against somebody else, has another feud, and then Chelsea's doing something else and comes back to it. I want Chelsea to win the title back, especially seeing as she didn't qualify for Money in the Bank. But I still love her in the Secret Hervis. That definitely bumped the number up a little bit. Yeah, honestly, to be completely honest, I did want Zelina Vega. In fact, I was thinking she was going to be the inaugural Women's Intercontinental Champion because she was on Raw. So I'm glad she finally got this one, but not really at the expense of Chelsea. So, and also they have to deal with the whole fact that the crowd definitely seems to be behind Chelsea. So B+, I think that's fair. Fun little match, but I didn't necessarily need it. Next up, undisputed WWE champion John Cena in a non-title match versus R-Truth, or rather Ron Cena. Cena comes out his usual way. Truth comes out with Cena's music, and I think it says Ron Cena on his shirt. Cena definitely does not appreciate this, attacks him right away. His dominance, almost like he's going to put R-Truth away right away, but R-Truth does make a comeback. He ends up hitting all of Cena's greatest hits, getting a huge crowd response from that. But then Cena, he grabs the title belt. He's going to hit him, but in what seemed like a moment of Cena actually, redeeming himself a bit. He puts down the belt. He's not going to hit R-Truth after Truth gives him a look. But then when the referee's looking away, he gives him the low blow, then comes back, whacks him with the title belt, 1, 2, 3, and attacks him a bit more and just leaves. Story A-. I mean, honestly, this is a years-long, decades-long storytelling and also the recent story with John Cena should be an A+, but they kind of rushed this one. Didn't really have much build to it, so A-. In-ring storytelling, I gotta say it's A+. I mean, they got the beats across. It was kind of like a simple story, and I really loved R-Truth coming out with the sort of Cena gimmick. In-ring work wasn't that great. B. Crowd, A-. Overall, I'm going to give this match an A-. I am a pretty generous grader. I thought this match did what it needed to do. It was functional, could have been better, but a good addition on the card. In a steel cage, Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre with special guest commentator Jesse the Body Ventura. This was a hard fought match, back and forth. A lot of Priest looked really strong. Drew looked really strong. They did end up climbing the cage, falling off the cage, doing the kind of spots you'd expect from a cage match. At the end, Drew was down, and instead of going to pin him or trying to beat him in the ring, Priest had enough. He just walked away. And of course, Jesse Ventura commented that he was sort of taking the weak way out. This was the easy way. He should have pinned him. He should have climbed over the cage, because I guess back in Ventura's day, you couldn't just walk out the door of the cage. You had to climb over the cage. Story still an A. I am liking this feud more and more as it goes on. In-ring storytelling, A+. In-ring work, A+. Crowd, maybe a B+ on this one. Overall, I'm going to give it an A-. I think this match could have been more, and I did like Jesse Ventura's contribution to the match, sort of making fun of Pat McAfee for being only the second commentator to, get into the ring, when actually Michael Cole did it before. Regardless, his bit at the end criticizing Priest for walking away was good. I wish he hadn't have said, you shouldn't walk over the top of the, you should have at least walked to the top of the cage and walked down. No, that's silly. The whole concept of choosing not to pin Drew, but just to walk away from the feud, it was a good thing to point out. Of course, there was no logical reason in this day and age for him to actually, unless he's going to jump down on Priest, for him to jump down on Drew, there's no logical reason for Priest to climb the cage to get out when he could just go walk out the door. Jesse is always fun to hear on commentary. I think he got the right point across, but he did it in kind of an odd way. I think this is a good second match of a trilogy. Yeah, and it kind of is. I think if the third one's the blow off, maybe in Hell in a Cell or some other stipulation, good. Let's do that. This is a good second match. This match could have used more time in and of itself, or used another to really feel like a feud match in the Saturday Night's Main Event time frame. And just the steel cage, the way it ended, it didn't really feel like that. But as a second match in a trilogy, it works fine. Let's hope there actually is a blow-off. And in the main event for the World Heavyweight Championship, the champion Main Event Jey Uso defends against challenger Logan Paul. Now, this was, of course, preceded by a backstage bit with John Cena talking to Jey Uso and saying, wouldn't it be great if, I walk away as the last real world champion and you lose that belt to a YouTuber? It's going to really help ruin wrestling. That's going to come into play a little bit later. Of course, Jey Uso had a great entrance to kick things off. Then Logan Paul had his entrance. The match was good. There was, for the most part, it was a lot of back and forth. Logan Paul took the lead at one point. He looked like he almost might win, but then Jey Uso made a comeback at one point, and it was good. It was good back and forth. Nothing too remarkable. At the end, Jey Uso was going to hit a frog splash, and he was going to win. It was clearly going to be a 1-2-3, and then John Cena yanks the referee out of the ring. Referee takes an instant bump for storyline purposes. I don't really think being yanked out of the ring would knock him out, but of course he had to be knocked out. Cena proceeds to beat Jey Uso until Cody Rhodes music hit. Cody Rhodes takes out John Cena, hits a few moves on him, throws him out of the ring, and Logan Paul has brass knuckles at this point, so he's about to knock out Uso, but then nope, Uso stops him, hits him with a spear. As Cody's waking up the ref, he hits him with the Uso splash. 1, 2, 3. Jey Uso retains, and just before the show goes off the air, Cody takes the mic and basically says the main event of Money in the Bank is going to be John Cena and Logan Paul versus Jey Uso and himself, Cody Rhodes. Okay, story. Well, it's a story that mixes in with a lot of stories, but it's still a good one. I'm going to say A. In-ring storytelling, A-. In-ring work, B+. They both did a good job. No real botches, but it wasn't the best in-ring work. crowd. I got to give the crowd an A+ because the crowd was definitely into this, especially Jey Uso and especially Cody's return. Overall, though, I give this one a solid A. Probably my second favorite match on the night after the opening match. I did think it was good. I thought the match was kind of okay, but then the ending or the finish with Cena and Rhodes, that was really good. That was really interesting. There was some really good work done there. And it was very quick. I mean, it could have maybe taken a bit longer, but it did set up a main event for the next PLE. I'm assuming that's going to be the main event, which is kind of interesting that they're going to have both champions in a match that's they're probably both going to, potentially go through the ringer, but it's a non-title match. And that will happen potentially after somebody wins the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. So that match and then the subsequent world title match between Jey Uso and Gunther on Raw are two occasions. The following Raw are two occasions where the Money in the Bank briefcase could play into it. Of course, they could just have the men's Money in the Bank ladder match close the show, in which case that match is not going to be as much of a risk, but I think they're going to do it that way. Anyways, we're not talking about that. We're talking about this. And yeah, this was good. I mean, they showed that Jey Uso clearly was going to win without any kind of interference. And then I almost thought for a second, because of Cena's interference, they were actually going to give the belt to Logan. And they didn't do that. They brought Cody back. Nice surprise. I'd say it was well done. I'd say it was a good way to close off Saturday night's main event. And that's my take on the May 2025 WWE Saturday night's main event. Live from coast to coast on NBC in the US and on Peacock and on YouTube from WWE, perfectly legitimately everywhere else. Saturday night's main event is one of the things forgotten by Netflix. That's one of the few things that WWE produces live and new that's not part of Netflix here. But the fact that it's on YouTube, fine. Commercials, well, watching it after the fact, and yes, they don't show the commercials, but they have a YouTube ad that comes up at the beginning and the end of each commercial break, and then you have to fast forward through commercial break in progress. That's kind of annoying, but again, that's not about the content of the show. That's just the way it's presented. Maybe they could improve that. I did enjoy this show. Again, the first match was incredible. I love that. Main event was decent, probably my second favorite. Then cage match and the Cena match were, the Cena's actual match against R-Truth were good. Were entertaining. Were good for what they were. The cage match could have been a bit longer. And I wish that the Chelsea Zelina match had more to it, or maybe was a bit different, but it was last minute and it felt very last minute, but it was still fine on the card. Overall, I definitely enjoyed Saturday night's main event. Did you agree with me? My rating, by the way, my grading, I'm a very generous grader. Like, sometimes you'll have a couple of matches on the show on a PLE that have A+. The fact that there's only one that has A+ on this one says something that this wasn't exactly my favorite show, but I'm still more of a generous grader. Did you agree with my take? Let me know in the comments. Follow at Silo Voice Wrestling on Facebook and Instagram, at Silo Wrestling on X, and me at Jason C. McLean on X and Instagram. And me, Jason C. McLean.bsky.social on Blue Sky. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications to get all my wrestling hot takes, cold takes, simmering takes, assorted thoughts on Raw and SmackDown, wrestling opinion pieces, and WWE Premium Live Event prediction and review videos, and also not really PLE, but similar to it, Saturday night's main event reviews. And maybe I'll do a prediction one next time. Who knows? I'll be back with my assorted thoughts on Raw. Until next time, for Silo Voice Studios in Montreal, I'm Jason C. McLean.